Alright, let's try to do this one more time. What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Variety Views. And tried recording this, and then turned out the record, for some reason, the recording program that I'm using right now, it just stopped for some reason, like halfway through my review. And now I have to do it all over again. So, but that's fine. That's okay. Yeah, okay. Canadian Stampede, which took place on the 6th of July, 1997, and yeah, I really enjoyed that the show. The show was so amazing from start to finish. Um, and the thing is that, and this is the thing that I love about the era, the Attitude Era, is that, um, more than any other era, I think the storytelling was on, it really set the level for, the best storytelling, and I don't think that there is any other era that had as many storylines going on at the same, in one show. Like rather than okay, because like for example, like you would see, in today's programming, you'd see like two or three main storylines, and there's like a few maybe like one sub storyline, and the rest is just filler. And the only reason like this guy's feuding with that guy is because they wrestled the last week and that guy won, and then they have another match and that guy cheated, and then on and on and on, and it's just like it goes on for months where they're wrestling each other. But in the Attitude Era, you would have more complex storylines going on underneath rather than it's just like I hate you, so let's just wrestle. No, it's more than that. There's like girlfriends involved. There's struggles, managers, contracts, a teammate that turned, factions, just so many storylines that were going on at that time, to the point where it's sometimes hard to keep up, but it's also hard not to be engaged. And that's exactly what I felt throughout this show. I was totally engaged. And like the matches were not like, technical masterpieces by any of the stretch of the imagination, but I feel like the way that I'm rating this is more than just, matches and hold for hold, but more so with the atmosphere, with the crowd. Because here's the thing, the show is called Canadian Stampede, and I think that anybody that would read, that title and knows nothing about the pay per view would be like, Canadian Stampede. That's like the stupidest pay per view name I've ever heard. It would have been better if they just called it Great Balls of Fire. That would at least be much more interesting. But Canadian Stampede, huh? Just because they're in Calgary, it just doesn't make any sense. But when you watch the show, it's the perfect name for it, because throughout the show, the fans are so hyped and so jazzed that there are times, and okay, I'll get to the main event, because especially the main event, that was like the peak. And it's exactly what you need to have in shows. That's exactly the formula that WWE needs to go with. I tend to see the same mistakes are being done, because it's not just WWE. I see it in TNA or GFW. I see it in Ring of Honor. I see it in New Japan. I see sometimes, but in Ring of Honor a little bit. I think Ring of Honor is learning from their mistakes, and New Japan as well. Because here's the thing: whatever match that you feel has the most heat, and because fuck the status quo, fuck like, okay, this is what needs to be here or there. When you have a hot act, when you have a hot character, and you put him in the main event, and you put him up there. It doesn't matter who it is, because it's like, okay, this guy's over with the fans. This guy is a great wrestler. He's over with the fans. He's awesome. He's got great promos. He's got great presence. People are behind him. People love him. And then you have another guy that they absolutely despise him, that nobody wants, everybody wants him to be, skinned alive. You put them together, you put them in the main event, the fans are going crazy, then you have a thumbs up main event, you have a great show to end on. But the problem is with WWE nowadays, especially, is that they see a guy, they say like, okay, he's great, but I don't think he's main event material because we don't like him. It doesn't matter about, it's not about what you like and don't like, it's about what the fans like and don't like. If the fans are into one guy, push him. And yeah, sure, fans, minds change. But guess what? That's exactly who you're trying to get the money out of. But, I'm not talking about like, the smart marks and stuff like that. Okay, they are a core part of your audience, but they will be there no matter what. But when you have your it's one of the, it's a double-edged sword, because you need the smart marks as well, because they make up the majority of your network subscriptions. So it's like they're important as well. So you need to listen from this way and you need to listen from that way. So when you have like a hot act that everybody loves, that every time they come out everybody loves them, push them. Don't be like, oh, okay, we can hold out that out for a bit, and then, you take some time, and then it's just like, ugh, and then people just sour on them, and then when they win the title, it just doesn't, it's not that, it doesn't get that feel out of you, it doesn't get that excitement out of you. But here, I feel like everything was done perfectly, except maybe like, maybe like a match or two. I felt like they could have been done better. Like, okay, we started with the free-for-all, and I always loved the free-for-all because it was like the Attitude Era's version of the pre-show, and it was great because you got Top Pettingill or it's like Doc Hendricks or Sonny. They're great. They're energized. They get you into the show, and they're like, okay, so and Todd Pettingill. I love Todd Pettingill because he was so over the top. He was like, so what's coming up with WWE, or it's like a WWF in your house, and it's awesome. I love it. I would love for Todd Pettingill to come back, and it was just so awesome. And then you would have, the pre-show match. And usually the thing is with the free-for-all, it would take like 20 minutes. Like maybe 20 minutes tops. It's not like an hour like nowadays. Or like if it's WrestleMania, then it's fucking 2 or 3 hours. It's just, come on. It's a pre-show. You don't want to take too long with the appetizers, because by that point, you're full. You don't want the main course. So I think that they need to really scale back with the pre-shows. You had the Blackjacks against the Godwins on the free-for-all, and it was okay. It was a 2-star regular WWF match at the time. It ended weird with Henry. He's supposed to kick one of the Blackjacks. I believe it was Barry Windham. Either that or it was JBL. I can't really remember. But he kicked one of them, and he was supposed to kick one of them while they're in the suplex position so that Phineas then rolls them up for the win. But the way that it came, the way that it got on camera, it just like Henry kicked Phineas's arm, and that resulted into the roll up, and it was just a weak win. It was okay. It was a regular match, a 2-star match. It was nothing special. Then we start off the show with Mankind versus Triple H, and this was really good. The fans were into it. Give it like 3.5 stars. It was a lot of fun. And throughout the show, it was just so much fun because the fans were into it, and that's the only reason why I give it 3.5 stars. It was definitely one of the weaker Triple H and Mankind matches, but I think the fans really made it feel so great. And It ended in a no count. Well, it was ended up in a double count out. They fought around the arena, and then like afterwards they were fighting in the parking lot. It was chaotic. It was perfect for the show. I felt. Like if it wasn't for the crowd or the atmosphere or anything like that, I would probably give it like 2.5 or 2 and 3/4 stars. But because of the fans and everything, it made it into like 3.5 or 3 and 3/4 if I'm being generous. Um, After that, we got Taka Michinoku against the Great Sasuke. Great Sasuke. Here's the weird thing. Great Sasuke was a freaking legend in Japan and FMW, and he was just beloved there. And then he came over to Canada. He came over to the States for a while, and some people knew him. Only the diehards knew him. But I think that as an introduction, I thought this was great for both of them, for Taka and Great Sasuke. They kicked the shit. Sasuke especially kicked the shit out of Taka. Taka at the time was like 23 years old. I think he was just in his second or third year in, in mainstream wrestling. I think he broke out like 2 years prior, and then he became a wrestler, and just like it's like his second year. I think that's what I think. I'm not sure. I think he came from All Japan as like some sort of talent exchange or something like that. And the thing is, I feel like that WWF wanted to build the light heavyweight division around Great Sasuke, but because of contract disputes or something like that, he left for FMW. I guess because he's the top star there. I mean, instead of rather than like why would he want to be in like a division that's basically like cruiserweight light, and he being like being paid, yeah, sure, he might be paid a little bit more, but back in FMW he had a more comfortable schedule, and the entire company was built around him. So yeah, I think he made the right call in staying back in Japan. But I think that maybe later on he would have been much more than just your run of the mill light heavyweight guy, because I do think that if it was built around Great Sasuke, maybe it would have been able to compete against the cruiserweight division in WCW. Maybe, I'm not sure, because you still need more guys than Great Sasuke. But the thing is that I love about Great Sasuke is that beyond his strong style, his kicks and his suplexes, is that he is a high flyer. So you would get more out of him, more out of Great Sasuke matches than, let's say, at the time, like a Juventud Guerrera or even a Rey Mysterio. You would get the strong style, you would get the technical matches, and also you get high flying. So you're getting more variety out of them. So there you go. The match itself, it was like 10 minutes. The reason why I say like the light heavyweight division would have been built around Great Sasuke is because he won here, and he won the next night on Raw against Taka in the rematch. So I feel like he was supposed to be there, but then they settled for Taka. Not saying not taking anything away from Taka Michinoku. He's an amazing wrestler. Even to this day, he's a great wrestler. But back then, dude, like he was one of my favorites. I just love watching Taka. And he was so beyond his years. And if just in hindsight, if I would have booked it, I would have been like, okay, maybe Great Sasuke wins here, but the rematch you'd have Taka win, and then maybe Sasuke would have an incentive to stay, to kind of teach Taka some more, and maybe have him feud with Lawler and Brian Christopher. It would have been interesting. Because at the time, yeah, Brian Christopher and Jerry Lawler were like the heels of the light heavyweight division. They were they hated the smaller guys. So I think it would have been interesting to do something like that with those two teams. Let's see. It was a good match. Great Sasuke won with a power bomb and then a dragon suplex. And it was just it was a good match. I would give it like 3.5 stars as well. Yeah, you know what? I'd give it like three. Yeah, 3.5 stars. I think that's right. That's right. Nothing. It wasn't like to the point where I'm like, oh my god, this is the greatest light heavyweight match because believe me, Taka later on has better matches. This was like probably the weakest big Taka match. He then goes on to have better matches. So yeah, this gets like 3.5 stars. This was a really good match. After that, we got Undertaker versus Vader, and looking back, I'm thinking about Undertaker's title reign, and when I was a kid, I was like, Undertaker's the greatest of all time. He deserves the title. He's the greatest champion ever. But now looking back, I'm thinking, man, he had one of the worst title reigns I've ever seen, because the title was always an afterthought. When he was feuding with, Vader and Paul Bearer and Mankind and everybody, it's just like the title is just an afterthought because, yeah, I get it. Like, the championship is a prop, but it should be an important prop because, like, during the storylines, it's like, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to destroy you, I'm going to kill you. And the title is not even mentioned. And it's just like, come on. I mean, it's like he's the champion, he's the top dog. So, they should be gunning for the title. They should be saying, like, I'm going to get the championship. Everybody should be, like, talking about the title. But for some reason, someone just becomes number one contender overnight. And, that's one of the biggest reasons why I thought, like, his title reign was just crap. Is because the contenders were just so weird. Like, Austin faced Undertaker in Cold Day of Hell, even though that he lost at WrestleMania. Then the following month, I believe he faced off against Mankind, even though that Mankind lost. Revenge of the Taker. Yeah, Mankind faced off against Undertaker, even though that he lost the tag match that was at Mania. They had like a rematch the following month. And then after that, what was the pay-per-view after that? King of the Ring. Yeah, King of the Ring, it was supposed to be Ahmed Johnson, but Ahmed tweaked his ankle, so they got Farouk instead. And Farouk faced off against Undertaker in like a weird... I guess it was, I don't know, maybe it made sense because the idea was that Farouk was like, you never had a black, champion. And they're like, oh, we got Bobo Brazil and stuff like that. But he's like, you never had a black world champion, And the WWF is racist. And it kind of made sense in that aspect. But at the same time, it's like, who did he beat? Who did Farouk beat? And nobody. And oh no, wait. Ahmed was supposed to face the Undertaker at Canadian Stampede, but instead he got his ankle twisted, and then they put Vader instead of Ahmed. And then for some reason Vader is about to face Undertaker, even though that he lost against Ken Shamrock. And it's just, I don't know, it's weird. It's like now he's facing the Undertaker. Why? Well, because he's facing the Undertaker. It doesn't make any sense. But the match itself, it was great. It was really, really good. Although one gripe I have about this match is that they tried to do... Undertaker loves to do this, and I've noticed this because I've seen it happen a few times, but I've never really noticed like that how many times it has happened. But they tried to do the thing that they did at Cold Day in Hell with Undertaker and Austin, where Undertaker goes for the tombstone, then Austin, turns it into his own tombstone, and then Undertaker turns it out into the tombstone, then he hits the tombstone. But somewhere along the line, Undertaker forgot that he was doing that with a 400-pound guy. I mean, yeah, sure, Vader is a little bit more mobile than most big men at the time, but still, he's 400 pounds. So, you kind of can imagine how bad it turned out to be. And yeah, Undertaker tried to do it and they just fell. And then, and then just like, Vader fell on top of him. No, it was Undertaker that fell on top of him and then he went for the pin. And then, it just looked weird. And then afterwards, Undertaker, Vader went up. He did a move, went up to go for the Vader bomb. Then Undertaker hit him like right, below the belt, and then went for the choke slam. And at the time, he had one of the worst choke slams, where it's like he lifts a guy really up, really high up, and then he gently places him on the mat, and it just it looks weird. But when he did it to Vader, you can't really, gently place him. It's just like either way, he's gonna fall off your hands. So when he slams on the mat, if you feel the impact. So he did that twice, then did the tombstone, and he pins him 1, 2, 3, and Undertaker retains the title. Great match. Probably the best match up to this point in Undertaker's title reign, which is not saying much. Although he did have a really good match against Mankind in Revenge of the Taker, but it wasn't anything that was like, it wasn't a great championship match, if that makes any sense. It was more, because it was more about Mankind and The Undertaker. And, the Cold Day in Hell match was more about Austin and the Hearts. So Undertaker was an afterthought, and, the title was even more of an afterthought. So, yeah. Let's see. After that, we got Farmer's Daughter. I've never really been a fan of them. I think I've listened to a few songs by them. Living at Home Tonight or something like that. I can't remember. But I remember my cousin. She was really into them. She was into them and Vitamin C and what else? She was more into those like really girly bands. And I remember I was just I just hated those bands. She was into like Backstreet Boys. I remember like with Backstreet Boys, I hated them in front of people, but I was like a closet Backstreet Boys fan because I remember I would listen to them, and I remember I used to have like one of those Walkmans, and I would listen to them and I would lower the volume because the thing is with the headphones back then is that if you turn it up just a little bit, then the person next to you, they can hear it. So I would lower the volume to the point where only I can hear it. So I remember I would listen to Backstreet Boys. I kind of liked NSYNC, and I remember there was what was it? What were they called? I think 0 Degrees, something like that. But I was into them. I was into like the more boy band type things because I think I really wanted to be like them because you would watch them and then like all the chicks would just go crazy and squeal and stuff like that, and you're like, oh man, if I was that, if I was like part of that band, I'd get I'd get all the chicks every day. But it was one of those times where I was confused. No, I wasn't really confused. I knew exactly what I wanted. I don't get it. I don't get why they call, when you're a teenager, they're like, oh, it was like a confusing time. No, it wasn't. You knew what you wanted. You wanted pussy all day, every day. So yeah, like so they sang the Canadian national anthem. It was all right. It was no Robert Goulet, but it was good. So after that, we got the 10 on 10 tag team match, and I think this is probably the greatest 10 on 10 tag team match. Include like this could include Survivor Series matches, because I don't think anything can come close. The match itself was good. Like, if not for the venue, I'd probably give it like, 4 stars. It was still good because there was still some psychology to it. And I love the idea that they used the venue to their advantage, where the Americans were like, fuck it, we'll be the heels. And even with Austin, he's like, low blowing guys, eye raking, and just being just the biggest heel in the world. Just flipping off the crowd and flipping off everybody. It made sense because you're in Canada and you're the heel, so just embrace it. And somewhere midway through the match, it's just like Owen got injured, and then Brett said like, go ahead, go backstage, and just we'll take care of this. We can win this. And just like just go ahead and rest. It's just like such a babyface move. While Austin was like, fuck this, and it's just like he attacked Brett from behind, and then Austin got injured, and then when Austin came back, Owen jumped him from behind, and then he came in, and then Austin and Owen went at it for a while, and then Owen rolled up Austin for the win, and the fans just erupted. The way that they erupted, I can't really compare it to anything that happened in the past 5 or 10 years, because I don't think I've ever seen the fans erupt like this. Maybe like something prior to this, maybe something during the Hogan era or something in WCW, but my God, up to this point, I don't think the fans like. I don't think I've ever seen like a match like this, like a 10-man tag, where it's like it should be a throwaway match, especially like nowadays. If you have a 10 on 10 tag match, not 10 on 10 man. What am I talking about? It's a 10-man tag. It's a 5 on 5 10-man tag. Fuck, 10 on 10. What am I talking about? So yeah, okay. So a 10-man tag. I like if you would hear like a 5 on 5 match nowadays, you're like, okay, that's a Raw main event. It's okay. You can't fuck it up. I mean, it's not going to be anything great, but they can't fuck it up. Then you watch it and you're like, oh, that was fun, cool, yeah. But this, it felt special. Like when they won, it was like they won a championship for Canada. Like it felt like a sporting event. And I think that's what's really missing nowadays, is that wrestling feels like it's all revolving around one storyline, and it's just like a toilet bowl where it's like, twirling down and down and down and down and down. While back then, the main title, the matches were like sports matches, but the storylines leading up to it were complicated. Like they were more, drama driven, or there's something about it, or there's something that that connects you to it, and you're engaged to the match. While now it's like it's just the same storyline repeated over and over again, where it's like, I beat you, so you're entitled for a rematch, and then we wrestle the next month. But during the Attitude Era, it was like, oh no, I beat you, but you won't get your rematch just yet. You'll get your rematch when it's, when it's deserving, when we can build up to the rematch. Because Undertaker, like I remember like with Brett, okay? Brett lost the title at WrestleMania 12, and he didn't get his rematch until December of that year. And yeah, he took some time off, but then he came back. But it wasn't like the first match that he came back for was for the world title. No, he had to go through Austin, go through Vader, go through other guys and then get to Sid at December. And I think that's an art that's been lost, and I think that they should do more of that. So the entire show, like the 10-man tag, I'd give it like 5 stars for sure, 5 stars, no questions asked. The entire pay per view, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. It's such a great pay per view that's so amazing to go back and watch. That if you have, the WWE Network, go ahead and watch it right now, or look for it, in Daily Motion, or if it just torrent it. Doesn't matter. Just watch it because it's such a great pay per view, and when you're watching it, you're like, holy shit, that's exactly what's missing from wrestling nowadays. Just these crazy venues and just crazy crowds. And you know what WWE did at the time when they went for them? They're like, holy shit, they're rowdy, we're coming back next week. And then they're like, oh my god, they're even more rowdy, we're coming back 2 weeks from now or a month from now, we're coming back here. So that's exactly what I love about it. Like, it was like a week in Canada, the next week they were in the States, the next week they were in Canada, the week after that they're in the States. It was such an amazing atmosphere. It was such a great time being a wrestling fan. So yeah, that was Canadian Stampede, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope I have enticed you enough to go ahead and watch that show, because it's such a great show. It's the 20-year anniversary. And be sure to check out my next 20, I don't know what I'm going to call it, maybe the 20-year anniversary reviews or something like that. Or next month, I'm going to be reviewing SummerSlam 97, August 3rd. So be sure to check that out. And yeah, like, comment, favorite, and please subscribe. And check out my next video where I'll be talking about something else.